And we are back with Michael J. Muccio, author of the book America's Battle for Free Enterprise, The Value of Incentive and Competition. And we're now discussing Chapter 13 of the book, which is entitled Restoring Dignity and Self-Respect to the Low Income, Real Fairness. Okay, in Chapter 13, Michael, you wrote, "For decades, we've tried worn out and irresponsible strategies to alleviate poverty. In 1988, President Reagan delivered a State of the Union address in which he declared, 'My friends, some years ago the federal government declared war on poverty, and poverty won.' So what is the government doing wrong?"
Well, what we have is that there's always discussion. Everybody needs to pay their fair share. But the question is, what is fair share? Because the top 1% is already paying 37% of the total tax bill. And then the next 49% of the populace is paying the next 61%. So that leaves 2%. So 50% of the population is only paying 2% of the taxes. Now, what some politicians are proposing is that you need to raise the taxes on the 1% so that the 1% can pay that additional 2% as well. And so the question comes into play, what is fair share? I mean, there is a limited amount of resources, and even if they were to pay that, it would only run the government for a little over a week.
So essentially, then you're just questioning, the math behind these policies.
Really, we need to broaden the base. It needs to be more movement toward kind of a flatter tax where there's more people involved in the tax paying process. Because, like Reagan said, we declared a war on poverty, and poverty's won. So we need to do things a little bit different here because the government's not solving the problem. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, you share a quote in the book from Why Nations Fail, and it says, "Poor countries are poor because those who have power make choices that create poverty. They get it wrong not by mistake or ignorance, but on purpose. Achieving prosperity depends on solving some basic political problems." So you're saying they get it wrong on purpose?
Well, they really do, because they don't have they're not putting the right policies in place. They're not creating an atmosphere and an environment for free enterprise to thrive. They're settling on a government in which authority sits in the hands of the elite, and then they're picking their favorites instead of letting the free market and competition cause those who are better are going to flourish, and those who are not, there's going to be creative destruction that occurs. So they're making a decision, and they're using policies, and those policies do not create the highest standard of living for the populace.
Okay, now I understand the narrow elite in communism, but who is the elite in our country?
Well, the elite would be when anytime you have movement toward increasing the size of the central government, making the federal government bigger, and taking the power away from the states, then you're putting it in the hands of an elite. Anytime you have discretionary thinking instead of trusting the rule of law, age-old documents, and letting the Constitution be the boundaries that we stay within. All of that is going to involve policies that's not going to be good for countries.
Okay, so will you talk a little bit about Banker to the Poor, Professor Yunus?
Yeah, that guy was amazing. You talk about fair and what's fair. I mean, he really got to know the poorest of the poor. He was a professor in Bangladesh, and he got tired of listening to his own lectures and then looking across the street and seeing people dying of starvation just right across the street from the university. And so he decided he wanted to really get to know, even if it was just one or two people, and what did they have to go through. And he found that these people would work from sunup to sundown. They were thrifty, they were hardworking, but what they had to do is they had to trust money lenders to loan them money so that they could buy the goods they needed to make their products. And so he came along and he realized, well, if I can give a loan to them and give them that opportunity to pay it back, they can be like a small business, startup business, instead of because the money lenders were making all the profits. These people would work from sun up to sundown, but most of the profits went to the money lenders, and it was a real racket that once again elite people were making the money instead of the individuals that were actually doing the work. And so he expanded from there and is working with poor people all over the world. And you know, Stacy, that 98% of those people pay back their loans. It's their only hope, and they know it. And he's just giving these people a chance. But those are the kinds of policies where you're empowering people, and you're empowering the concept of the free market and free enterprise instead of the government doing it by way of entitlement or a handout. So it's really an excellent way to deal with some of the poorest of the poor. Anyway.
That's right, empowering the low-income people.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and we'll be back in a moment to talk more about Michael's book, America's Battle for Free Enterprise, The Value of Incentive and Competition.